Hello and welcome to A Cuppa with Karen. So 6 months ago, just after October the 7th, the Socialist Workers' Party in the UK got together and had a conference on how they're going to stage the protests. And we've got in the pink, she does the university, and in the black, she does the primary and the high schools. So I took clips of both of their talks, and then after that, a few weeks later, the Socialist Workers' Party took it down. So you can't see the rest of them. The second to the left is the guy from Sinn Féin. So that's why I'm a little bit harsh on the university protesters, is because I know what they've been instructed to do. It's not just about Palestine, it's also smash the capitalist system and viva the revolution.
We are committed to our demands and will continue to build and fight until the University of Melbourne not only discloses but divests in full. We demand disclosure within 1 month and that an independent body of our choice oversees this process. Disclosure will not be determined by the university alone.
We have conducted extensive research into the nature of the relationships and the research outputs and the funding that has been coming from these weapons manufacturers, which are private companies.
This is an opinion piece from Melbourne University. It's from 2018. In its 2016 Defence White Paper, the Australian government committed to an 81% increase in the defence budget over a decade. The paper also outlined plans to recruit 4,400 new Australian Defence Force employees. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull also recently announced a $3.8 billion investment in arms manufacturing industry. The hope is Australia will become one of the world's top 10 weapons exporters. Last year, the University of Melbourne announced a research partnership with Lockheed Martin, one of the world's largest weapons manufacturers, through the Defence Science Institute. They established a co-joint research centre adjacent to the University of Melbourne campus. So it's their first research centre outside of the US and will provide PhD scholarships and internships while directly funding research projects and co-authoring applications in the future. And only a fortnight ago, remember this is 2018, the University of Melbourne signed another similar agreement, this time with UK weapons manufacturers BAE Systems. And other universities have. There are 32 universities participating in the Defence Science Partnership Program. And there's some ethical issues and some more ethical issues. But like I said, this is an opinion piece, but it's got those little facts.
Well, let's now speak to Ella Ward, who is a spokesperson at Youth Demand. I'm delighted to say she's joining us on the show to explain what's going on, what she plans to do and why she thinks it needs to happen. Hi, Ella. How are you doing?
Morning, Alex. How? Yeah, good. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for having me on as well.
No, good. It is my absolute pleasure. Now, first of all, let's start off with what are you planning to do and why?
So, like you said, we're from Youth Demand, which is a non-violent group of young people to call on a two-way arms embargo on Israel and also no new oil and gas licenses. And we're doing that because Tory and Labour are both driving genocide. The political system we've got at the moment is totally broken, and young people have realised that, and we're demanding better. So we're going to be engaging in non-violent resistance, and we're joining lots of other student protest groups to set up encampments at different universities, and we'll also be taking action in London this summer.
Why do you think that it's necessary to have a two-way arms embargo with Israel? How is that going to benefit this country or indeed change the situation in the Middle East?
well, a genocide's happening right now in Israel, in Palestine.
The UN haven't called it a genocide.
The International Court of Justice has called it a genocide. We can argue over the words if you like, but essentially,
how's this going to change the situation?
15,000 children have been killed, Alex, and they're being killed with weapons that are being made in the UK.
Okay, no, actually, hold on, Ella, what is the percentage of Israel's armaments that we are selling to them? How many weapons from the UK are going there? What percentage?
Look, as students in the UK, the things that we have the ability to change is what our government
do. I'm glad you're standing up for things you want to change. What I'm asking you is how not going to tutorials and lessons, you pay very high tuition fees, how that's going to change what's going on in the Middle East. Because I'll tell you the percentage of Israel's arms that come from the UK is 0.9%. That is from the Campaign Against Arms Trade, whose I would imagine whose position you pretty much support. Now, not only is it only 0.9%, these are dual-use goods, which means they're not actually arms. They're things like widgets and buttons and things that could be used on a computer as much as it could in a tank. So how is locking yourself up on campus, disrupting people's education you pay a lot of money for, when it's only 0.9% of their weapons and it's dual use, going to change anything?
Well, that's 0.9% too high, frankly. And it's not just these widgets that you talk about. We know that drones are going over. We know that engines for drones are being made in this country. And we need to say that we can't have UK-made bombs committing genocide.
But it's not UK-made bombs, is it?
Do you not think that we shouldn't be killing 15,000 children with weapons?
But we're
not.
We're not, because I've just told you the statistics of what we are selling to Israel. So it isn't what you're saying at all, is it? It is a far cry from that. And actually, they essentially provide us with far more technology that protects us in terms of things like cyber warfare. So if we have a two-way embargo, then we're actually preventing ourselves from defending ourselves, and we're really not sending bombs and missiles over to Israel in the first place.
Look, Alex, it's not a complicated demand. Israel is committing a genocide, and we need to stop arming them. It's not complicated.
Well, fine. If we stop selling the 0.9% of widgets and button covers that we're giving them, then that's not really going to change the picture of what's going on in Israel at all. What it is going to do is prevent you from getting an education. On that matter, I'd quite like to inquire where you're getting your information from. What are your sources of news?
Well, I get news from lots of different places.
Such as?
I can send you some information over afterwards.
No, I'm just asking you where are you getting inspired to do this campaign? What are you reading? What information are you getting that makes you want to give up your education, lock yourself on a campus when you pay a lot of money and privilege to go to a university in the Western world? I want to know what it is you're reading that makes you want to do that, when I think it's pretty balmy and isn't going to change anything. So explain to me.
Alex, I think that you've managed to kind of disconnect from the fact that what I've read is that 35,000 people have been killed. That's
let's stick with that.
Fact.
Where do those? Okay, is it an absolute fact? Where do those statistics come from?
Well, those statistics are not disputed. Those statistics are coming from major news sources.
No, those statistics are coming from Hamas. They're the people who give the statistics. And how many of the 35,000 that Hamas say have been killed are militants, and how many are members of the public?
Well, 15,000 of them are children, Alex. And, you know, the fact that we're arguing over numbers at the moment suggests that you think that there's a reasonable number of people to be killed.
No, I'm not saying that
maybe
at all.
It's higher, maybe it's lower. There is not an acceptable number of people, innocent people.
What I'm asking, if you're going to jeopardise
a genocide,
if you're going to jeopardise your education, what I was asking you is, if I was going to make a sacrifice that was going to potentially affect my future, waste me thousands of pounds that I'm going to have to pay back in tuition fees, disrupt life on campus for other students, I would want to be sure that I'm basing it on something that I understand and I have researched. So I'm asking you where you get your information. It's very simple. You can tell me, name me the sources. What's inspiring you? Where are you reading this stuff?
The information I'm getting is from, like I've said, the major news outlets. These are not disputed facts. These are these is what the numbers. And you're talking about disrupting education. There are no universities left in Gaza. Disruption is absolutely essential to create change, and it's an enormous privilege to go to university, and we need to be using that education that we're getting to actually fight for what's right. And what's right is young people realising that a genocide's happening and young people are demanding better.
So how about, if you want to use your education to change the world, is it not better to be in a lecture hall than camping out in tents like Swampy about a situation that you doing that is not going to change?
So whether the uni's got to deal with the Australian Defence Force or they're making widgets and buttons, the students are all saying exactly the same things.
It's time to get organised.
The Israeli genocide in Gaza has been carried out with the complicity of the West and the Tory government here in Britain.
The world is on the brink of climate catastrophe. The far right and the fascists are at their highest levels since the 1930s.
Racism, sexism, transphobia are all on the rise. The list goes on.
But we've also seen people fighting back. Palestine protests have swept the globe. Millions of us have marched, walked out and occupied in solidarity with Gaza and against imperialism.
We need to deepen the movement, but most importantly, we need a politics that doesn't throw Palestinians under the bus.
We need to fight for the kind of politics and strengthen a movement that unashamedly takes on the apartheid state and the imperialist countries that prop it up.
We need a politics of struggle, solidarity and socialism to take on the system.
Join the Socialist Workers' Party and be part of the fight back.
And this little socialist here is this little socialist here in the pink. They really need just to do a gap year in North Korea, don't they? Anyway, that'll do. See you later. Bye.